Chapter 25-30. Standing at the side, he immediately understood everything. Back then, he had resolutely headed to the demonic divine region for the sake of the common people. He did not expect that his trip would turn into nothing. The place was empty, and the scene in front of him quickly changed. Looking up at the sky, Su Yi's eyes were filled with fear. He said seriously, "This illusion is so powerful." Dark clouds pressed down from the distant sky. Under the gloomy atmosphere, the world was in a state of distress and panic. In front of the demon imperial palace, Yuluo sat on the step. In front of the palace were the heavily injured golden dragon and phoenix. The two brothers' eyes were blood red, and their battle intent was condensed. The large patch of blood in front of them had already turned black, and it was a ghastly sight. Demon Empress sister-in-law, my condolences. The golden dragon's faint dragon scales glowed with a solemn bloody light. After saying this, he could not stop crying, and he was filled with regret. At the side, Su Xiaoshuai's flesh was torn open, and his bones could be seen. He half knelt on the ground, and did not raise his head for a long time. Could it be? Su Yi's heart trembled. Seeing this scene, the world mourned. Huge raindrops quickly drenched the demon imperial palace. Yuluo's crying body trembled as she looked up at the phoenix and golden dragon. Actually, even if they did not say anything, Yuluo herself knew what had happened. "Get up!" Turning around, the 12 divine beasts burst into tears at the same time. At this moment, the demon imperial palace was in extreme sorrow. Yuluo walked back to the demon imperial palace. Behind her, the demon imperial palace was instantly in a hubbub. The demonic beasts' voices echoed hundreds of thousands of miles in the demon imperial palace. Inform all the divine regions to mobilize immediately and rush to the demonic divine region to take revenge for Boss. Su Xiaoshuai roared. Take revenge for the demon emperor. Take revenge for the demon emperor's realm. Kill all the divine regions. Kill Xianyuan Qiangu. Roar. The divine beasts that were tens of thousands of meters long were entrenched in the sky. The desolate gods and demons gathered in the sky, and a bloody storm instantly filled every corner like a violent storm. Sigh. Su Yi had seen similar scenes over and over again, and he did not want to see it again. Letting out a long sigh, Su Yi followed Yuluo into the demon imperial palace. At this moment, he was very familiar with the way in the room. The moment the door was pushed open, Yuluo cut off her long hair towards the candle flame. Her fine black hair turned to ash, and her heart died. Looking at Yuluo's back, Su Yi felt an indescribable pain. When Yun Jing was waiting for him, she was probably just as heartbroken. Yuluo, who was in extreme pain, set up a spatial vortex in front of her and rushed towards the demon god domain. Within the demon god realm, the sky was filled with black souls. The demon souls that had always been despised and spurned by the god realms were now prostrating themselves beneath Xianyuan Qian Ji's feet. After successfully luring the demon emperor into the demon god's domain and killing him, Xianyuan Qian Ji's face was filled with arrogance. Her murderous aura surged violently from her body, and her face was filled with excitement. Seeing Yuluo walk over, Xianyuan Qiangu asked, "Why are you here?" With that said, Xianyuan Qiangu waved her hand and the thousands of black souls quickly dispersed. Yuluo's face was deathly still as she walked forward. The demon emperor is already dead. What use is there for me to stay in the demon imperial palace? With a cold laugh, Xianyuan Qiangu continuously manipulated the giant purplish-black vortex in front of her and softly said, "You got the news pretty quickly. Forget it, since you're back. You can be at ease and stay by Father's side. If the demon emperor doesn't want you, Father will take good care of you." With that said, Xianyuan Qiangu turned her head and sized up the curvaceous Yuluo. The depths of her eyes gradually filled with filth. "Father, why are you working with the demon god domain? Yuluo quickly hid the disgust and murderous intent in her eyes and lowered her head to look at the vortex. She stood to the side and frowned as she looked at Xianyuan Qiangu. She raised her head to look at the sky above the vortex. The deep purplish-black lightning python crack was faintly flickering. Ha ha ha! Xianyuan Qianji's lips curled slightly as she whispered, "This is all thanks to the Demon Emperor. He's on good terms with the demons, so I'm on good terms with the lowly demon race. I didn't think that I would actually discover that the primordial calamity would erupt in the demon god domain." Boom! The giant purplish-black vortex in front of her flowed with electric arcs, and the great calamity crack above her head also flickered. Actually, compared to demons, humans and demons are the two most extreme energies in the world, one black and one white. During the first primordial calamity, when heaven and earth were first separated, light and darkness created humans and demons respectively. The demons were born lowly, and Father only used a little trick to obtain this god-slaying demon-attracting secret technique. After studying it, I actually obtained the method to control the primordial calamity. Xianyuan Qiangu boasted. With that said, Xianyuan Qiangu put her hand on God Yuluo's shoulder and began to wander around without restraint. "Once Father has thoroughly studied it, I'll make you my empress. How about it?" "But Lord Demon Emperor's army is about to attack." Yuluo's lips sank. She could no longer control the anger and hatred in her heart as she spoke coldly. "What's there to be afraid of about those bastards?" Xianyuan Qiangu raised her brows and immediately released her hand in anger. She continued to study the vortex in front of her. Instantly, Su-Yi understood that the secret to controlling the primordial calamity was the fusion of the god-slaying demon-attracting secret technique and the energy of heaven and earth. The god-slaying demon-attracting secret technique was a secret technique that the wild owl passed to Draconis from the sky barbarian realm. After Su-Yi fused the iron soulfish and Draconis's energy, Su-Yi had already understood it. Immediately, the great battle of the demons that followed was simply brushed aside in this memory. The final scene. Even God Yuluo had learned the method to control the primordial calamity. When Xianyuan Qiangu returned from the great battle with the demons, God Yuluo ruthlessly stabbed the sharp blade that was originally stabbed into the demon emperor into Xianyuan Qianji's dantian. Xianyuan Qiangu, who was lying on the ground and shouting non-stop, looked at her daughter's ice-cold gaze in horror. Yuluo didn't kill her. She just quietly watched Xianyuan Qianji's vital energy continuously explode in the air. In the end, Yuluo turned around and left. What Yuluo didn't know was that Xianyuan Qiangu hid in the deep purple vortex in the end. Walking out of the demon god domain, the mountains and plains were filled with corpse puppets. Everywhere Yuluo went, humans and demon beasts were slaughtered. In this earth-shattering battle, humans, demons, and demons were all destroyed. Yuluo was heartbroken as she ran back to the Demon Emperor Palace. That day, the dazzling Demon Emperor Palace had already become a bloody battlefield. At this moment, Yuluo finally collapsed. The 12 divine beasts had all died in battle. The phoenix had fallen on the stairs, the golden dragon hung above the golden roof, the black tortoise's body had exploded, and the 9 tails of the heavenly fox had been torn apart. The corpses were too horrible to look at, not to mention the De Kuei and the white tiger. These supreme demons who used to be all-powerful and followed the demon emperor to look down on the world were all dead. As far as the eye could see, mountains of bones were piled up, rivers of blood flowed, and the torn world was filled with misery. Not to mention the blood sword divine domain, heavenly star divine palace, and other small divine domains. This wasn't the primordial calamity, but it was even more terrifying. Sitting on the 1,000 chair that the demon emperor used to sit on, Yuluo's heart was as cold as snow as fresh blood gushed out from the corner of her mouth. Bang! Bang! Yuluo finally reacted. She sat on the high chair and cried, "Lord Demon Emperor, take a look! How is this different from the primordial calamity? Chapter 25-31. In the huge demon emperor palace, only Yu Luo's cries could be heard. It was bleak and desolate. Su-yi, who was standing at the side, felt his head start to hurt again. The scene in front of him started to blur. Su-yi looked at Yu Luo in front of him and gradually stood up. His thin and weak body staggered as he walked to the front of the palace. His expression was calm as he formed a mysterious hand seal again. Boom! Like a sudden clap of thunder, a deep purple lightning python appeared in the sky. A huge lightning pillar crazily struck down. Demon Emperor, Yu Luo is here to accompany you. Bang! The space in front of Su-yi was empty. The terrifying feeling of a vacuum explosion instantly descended. This was a super calamity that even Su-yi felt terrified of. Chi-la. With a sonic boom, everything returned to nothingness. Yu Luo ran forward in a white halo to search for his Chaos Demon Emperor. Memories flashed in front of his eyes like a veil. The love of 10,000 years made Su-yi's heart ache. The immemorial calamity had completely erupted when Yu Luo was injured, and everything was destroyed. Carrying the scars of memories, Su-yi returned to reality. When he slowly opened his eyes, Su-yi was already drenched in sweat. Huff huff. Panting heavily, Su-yi felt as if he had stayed in water for a day and a night. The suffocating feeling made Su-yi's mind a little sluggish. Su-yi, are you okay? At this moment, Su-yi was being held tightly by a soft hand. Su-yi looked down and saw Yun-chani looking at him with concern. Did you remember something? Yun-chani's eyes were misty, and her bright pupils were filled with worry. Then, Su-yi heaved a sigh of relief and told her about how Yu Luo had triggered the immemorial calamity at the end. No wonder Xianyuan Qian-gu wanted to revive. She was living with hatred for Yu Luo and the Demon Emperor. Yun-chani sucked in a breath of cold air. Su-yi slowly got up and circulated the art of driving the heavens. Looking around, the old Demon Emperor palace was lifeless, just like before. That day Yu Luo ran out from here. Looking at the Thousand Beasts chair, Su-yi could not help but step forward and slowly sit on it. Imitating Yu Luo, he gently stroked the armrest of the chair. The 10,000-year-old Thousand Beasts chair was bright and clean, without a speck of dust. Suddenly, Su-yi was shocked. At this moment, a faint voice came from Su-yi's body. Go find her. Suddenly, Su-yi's tiger-like eyes widened as cold sweat dripped down his back. Looking at Yun-chani's calm expression, Su-yi knew that only he could hear this voice. Was he hallucinating? Su-yi stood up and looked around in a daze. The shabby demon flag fluttered on the beams, and the huge palace was still silent. What's wrong? Yun-chani asked. Su-yi shook his head and said softly, I'm fine. The depressed Su-yi sat down again, and the voice sounded in his mind again. Go find her. Go find Yu Luo. The magnetic voice sounded in his ears again, and all the pores on Su-yi's body opened up. Go find her? Su-yi kept thinking about the voice. That was the Demon Emperor's voice. Su-yi suddenly remembered that it was the Demon Emperor's voice. Find who? Su-yi stood up again and looked around. After a long while, the voice disappeared. Walking down the stage, Su-yi narrowed his eyes. Yu Luo was already dead. Where could he find her? That voice must have been the remnant soul of the Demon Emperor on the Thousand Beasts chair. It wanted to tell him that Yu Luo was still alive. Then where should I go find her? Su-yi was a little puzzled. Boss, where are you? At this moment, handsome Su's voice sounded from outside the palace. Yun-chani looked at Su-yi. Su-yi had already walked into the inner room. Where are you going? Yun-chani asked loudly. Her voice reverberated in the palace. Su-yi's figure was like a ray of light that flashed through the palace. Wait for me outside with them, Su-yi shouted. Yun-chani shook her head and shot out of the palace. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Su-yi had already rushed into the inner palace. Following the path in his memory, Su-yi quickly arrived at the inner room. Looking from afar, the inner room was lit up. Su-yi was a little choked up as he held his breath and pushed the door open. Creak. There was a sound and the smell of dust entered his nose. However, there was a figure sitting in front of him. Just like that, looking over, her back was dazzling and captivating. That slightly raised bun and misty hair made one's heart sway. Was it Yuluo? Su-yi didn't dare to believe it. Su-yi wasn't sure. This figure was also covered with a red veil. It was very similar to the Demon Emperor's banquet back then. As he walked closer, the woman in front of him emitted a fragrance. She was as delicate as a fairy. Su-yi gently placed his hand on the woman's shoulder. Her shoulder was carved and smooth to the touch. The woman didn't say anything. She just stood up and turned around. Looking at the woman in front of him, Su-yi gently lifted the veil. Yuluo's and Yunjing's faces overlapped. Their faces were flawless, like orchids in an empty valley. Jing-er! Su-yi was slightly shocked. She slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were as gentle as water as she looked at Su-yi. Do you still remember this place? I remember. But how can this be? Are you Yunjing or Yuluo? Yunjing said softly, the wood suppression heaven stone was originally a wedding gift that you gave me. In the end, I triggered the immemorial calamity and entered the wood suppression heaven stone to search for your whereabouts. You remember everything? Su-yi's nose twitched as he asked softly. Yunjing moaned and immediately hugged Su-yi's waist. She said softly, in our previous life, we were not fated to be together. In this life, we will never be separated. Bam! Su-yi hugged Yunjing tightly. The Yunjing in front of him was a little strange. In the past, Yunjing's personality was straightforward and fierce. Could it be that her style of speaking had changed after she recovered Yuluo's memories? At this moment, Yunjing, who was in Su-yi's embrace, suddenly changed her expression. Her eyes were filled with viciousness. Yunjing's palm bent slightly. Her hand blade flew out and attacked Su-yi's great void spirit sea. Su-yi, be careful. Duguyuma's voice rang in his head from the primordial chaos ancient bell. Rumble! In the inner room, there was a sudden sound of golden inscriptions. Su-yi quickly circulated the primordial chaos supreme technique. The divine inscriptions were repaired and golden light shone brightly. Roar! Immediately after, there was a low roar. The Yuanyang Sky Dragon Bone and the Demon God Battlesuit were deployed. The 3 strong layers of defense exploded around the great void spirit sea. Ah! Yunjing, who was in his arms, struggled free and was quickly sent flying. She fell onto the incense table in front of her. The candlelight flickered and Yunjing's face became cold and evil. I didn't lie to you, Yunjing said coldly as she wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. Who are you? Su-yi shouted angrily. Looking at Yunjing's pitiful appearance, the corner of his mouth sank and a steely look flashed across his eyes. Chapter 25-32. Me! Yunjing looked at the tattoo on her body and laughed madly with resentment. Her mournful voice was like a ghost's howl. I'm Yuluo, Demon Emperor. Under Su-yi's gaze, Yunjing's face started to change. The hazy light turned into Yuluo's appearance. Although Yuluo and Yunjing looked very similar, one could tell the real from the fake at a glance. You're not Yuluo, Su-yi yelled. Then, a painful moan exploded from Yunjing's throat. It was actually Yunjing's real body. Su-yi, it's me. I'm Jing-er. I'm Jing-er. Before she finished speaking, Yunjing's entire body trembled, and she looked like she was in pain. Presumably because of the painful torture, Yunjing couldn't support herself and her legs were slightly bent. She was very upset. Jing-er. Seeing her like this, Su-yi suddenly panicked. Yunjing's sweat rolled down like a blazing fireball and fell on Su-yi's heart. Oh, you're starting to feel sorry for her? My daughter died so tragically. You still care about your sweetheart? Hearing this, Su Yi immediately understood the situation and yelled angrily, Xianyuan Qiangu, get out of Jing Er's body. At this moment, Xianyuan Qiangu didn't hide it anymore. Yun Jing's face gradually started to distort. The corners of her mouth curved into an insolent arc as she hysterically looked at Su Yi. Hello, we meet again after 10,000 years. Yun Jing's face kept switching between Yulua's, Xianyuan Qianji's, and her real body's face. Su Yi stared from afar and a surge of murderous intent poured out from his body. Xianyuan Qiangu, just come at me. Why do you have to torture Yun Jing? Xianyuan Qiangu played with her palms and whispered, My daughter destroyed my dantian back then. Today, I'm going to destroy her body too. I'm going to let her have a taste of eternal damnation. Then, Yun Jing's painful howl came from her body again. Su Yi immediately surrendered. Enough. Sure. Su Yi frowned and slowly approached Xianyuan Qiangu. His face was as dark as water as he said, I'll give you whatever you want. Hearing this, Xianyuan Qiangu looked at Su Yi with interest. She raised her eyebrows and sneered, For me? Give it back to me. Bang. Xianyuan Qianji's eyes lit up. Green whirlpools suddenly rose from her legs. She cursed in a low voice, This body's cultivation is so low. What a waste of the wood-suppressing heavenly stone. Boom. A mysterious hand seal condensed in front of her. It could be seen from the hand seal that Xianyuan Qiangu used the soul skill of the god-slaying, demon-attracting secret technique to control Yun Jing's soul. Perhaps it was because Xianyuan Qiangu had been in the realm of the gods for too long that she could sense even the slightest fluctuation of energy. That was why he was one step ahead of Su Yi and found Yun Jing. Controlling Yun Jing was more useful than controlling anyone else. Bang! After the hand seal was formed, a roaring wooden dragon with a strange black light rushed to heaven and earth. A huge explosion occurred on the roof of the inner room. Suddenly, Xianyuan Qiangu turned into a green light and shot into the sky. Her cold voice scattered along the sky. If you want to save this woman's life, then come with me. Did you succeed? Outside the inner room, Fei's voice entered his ears. A fierce sound shot into the sky. Fei put away the barrier and shot into the distance with Xianyuan Qiangu. Fei, Xianyuan Qiangu, I will kill you. After saying this coldly, Su Yi shot into the sky with a gloomy face. In the dusky and simple world, the two lights of Xianyuan Qiangu and Fei were already very far away from him. Swoosh! The fire around his body reappeared and the divine light surged. The exploding wind and fire formed a resplendent wall of fire around Su Yi. The wind-suppressing heavenly stone quickly revolved. Su Yi immediately turned into a cloud-piercing sword and caught up with Xianyuan Qiangu and Fei. Boss, where are you going? Behind him, Yun Chani, Su Xiaoshui, and Ling Lanin were very anxious. They had just arrived at the Demon Emperor's realm and Su Yi was gone. Helpless, they could only circulate their Yao energy and continue to follow Su Yi's footstep. Isn't that the direction we came from? Su Xiaoshui looked into the distance. Let's go and see. I think I saw Fei just now. Yun Chani said coldly. Indeed, Yun Chani was more familiar with Fei's vitality than anyone else. However, she was worried about Xianyuan Qiangu, who was with Fei. Seeing Su Yi so anxious, if Fei really joined forces with him, the situation in the realm of the gods would change again. After an hour, Su Yi finally caught up with Xianyuan Qiangu and Fei. It's here. Xianyuan Qiangu said coldly. Seeing the familiar environment, Su Yi frowned. So this was the demon realm, the place where the archaic calamity began and ended. Xianyuan Qiangu had died here. The unfinished business of the past, Demon Emperor. You made me wait for 10,000 years. Xianyuan Qiangu shouted angrily. Fei stood to the side and said in a low voice, Our cooperation ends here. After you kill Sui, don't forget your promise. Fei, do you think he'll let you go if I die? Sui sneered at Fei. Ah. Xianyuan Qiangu glared at Sui and roared, Demon Emperor, do you think a war of words will work now? Sui looked coldly at Xianyuan Qiangu. Behind him, Yun Chani, Su Xiaoshui, and the others had arrived. Boss! Su Xiaoshui shouted. Sui, Yun Chani, Su Tianke, and Ling Lanin were also anxious. Wait, don't come over. Sui stopped them with his hand. Now that Xianyuan Qiangu was controlling Yunjing, he couldn't anger her. Everyone looked at Xianyuan Qiangu, wondering why Yunjing and Fei were standing together. Su Xiaoshui said coldly, Sister-in-law? She doesn't look like it. She must be controlled by someone. This isn't the real Yunjing. Yun Chani whispered. On the other side, Xianyuan Qiangu saw that Sui had attacked again. She carefully sized up little handsome Su and mocked him viciously. Phoenix, so you're not dead yet? This time, Xianyuan Qiangu used her original voice, so Su Xiaoshui recognized her immediately. GG. Su Xiaoshui rushed to Su Yi's side like a ferocious beast. Xianyuan Qiangu, it's you. I'm going to kill you. Back then, Phoenix felt guilty for the Demon Emperor's death. Even though the war of 10,000 demons was thrilling, the Demon Emperor was still dead. Hearing that it was Xianyuan Qiangu, Yun Chani, Su Tianke, and Ling Lanin were furious. Red as blood, the vast spatial essence qi filled the air. Between heaven and earth, the wind blew, lightning flashed, and thunder roared. The vast energy that soared into the sky made Xianyuan Qiangu tremble. I didn't think that so many people would die with you. Xianyuan Qiangu whispered with Yunjing's face. Chapter 25-33. Damn it! Xianyuan Qiangu, you old dog! How dare you hide in my sister-in-law's body? Are you still a man? Handsome Su roared. Xianyuan Qiangu, what do you want? Do you want to repeat the Archean calamity? Xianyuan Qiangu turned a deaf ear to handsome Su and Su Tiank's curses. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Fei. Why are you looking at me? Fei looked back. Xianyuan Qianji's lips curled. Help me and I'll give you half of the realm of the gods. Then I might not believe you, Fei said with a cold gaze. I've already told you how to control the Archean calamity. How could it be false? If this body's cultivation wasn't so low, I wouldn't be begging you. Xianyuan Qiangu snorted. Sui watched as Fei slowly descended from the sky. It was a tense atmosphere that could erupt at any moment. Fei put his palms together and said in a low voice, Then I'll trust you one more time. Remember, don't break your promise. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Immediately, Fei stood behind Xianyuan Qiangu. His palms flew, and a large amount of surging energy rushed in all directions. It was like a flood opening a dam, and it violently poured out in torrents. Senior brother Fei, are you really going to help the evildoer? Yun Chani asked coldly. Yun Chani, Su Tianke, and Ling Lanin's secret runes shattered. Enormous amounts of energy shot into the sky. They were all filled with righteous indignation. I'm helping myself. How am I helping the evildoer? Junior sister? Fei laughed coldly and pointed at the vast sky. Half of the realm of the gods will be mine. Who do you think I'm helping? But don't forget that you relied on us to get here. Yun Chani's face turned red. Fei sighed and looked around. If I had cooperated with him earlier, you'd be nothing but a pile of dirt right now. Accept your fate. Don't force it, junior sister. Fei's shameless words caused Yun Chani and Su Tianke to curse him. Whoosh! Under everyone's gaze, Sui coldly stared at Xianyuan Qiangu. Streaks of blazing light streaked across the top of his head like flaming rainbows. What do you want me to do for you to let Jing-er go? Xianyuan Qiangu nodded and stroked her jade hands. She said coldly. She said, It's simple. You just die in front of me one more time. What? Su-yi turned pale with fright, his cold eyes filled with coldness. It looks like you still haven't completely remember. Let me help you recall. I know you know. How do you think I know how I control the Archean calamity? You, who cultivated the primordial origin supreme technique, are the only person in the world who has the body of a human, a god, and a devil. How generous of you to be willing to give it a try. That's exactly what I wanted. Su-yi didn't say a word. In his memories, the demon emperor had indeed died because of this. Su-yi knew that the control method was a combination of the god-slaying demon summoning technique and the power of heaven and earth. The combination of a god and a demon could control the Archean calamity. After the demon emperor died, Xianyuan Qian-go controlled the Archean calamity. That purple vortex was the complete form of the Archean calamity. However, Xianyuan Qian-go was ambushed by Yuluo. Once she died, Yuluo used the wood heaven-suppressing stone to leave with the vortex. In the end, her grief triggered the Archean calamity. Back then, the resentment was sucked into the vortex. Now, I'm using the wood heaven-suppressing stone to summon the vortex. If you die again, your power will be released and I'll be reborn. Xianyuan Qian-go laughed loudly. Then, Xianyuan Qian-go looked at Su-yi and said, "Let's begin." Bang bang. The vortex reappeared in front of Su-yi. Everyone frowned when they saw the terrifying vortex filled with electric arcs, wind, and killing intent. Boss. Handsome Su held Su-yi's hand tightly. I went through it once. I don't want to go through it again. With that, Handsome Su, who had always been arrogant, began to cry. He sobbed as he looked at Su-yi. Suddenly Yunchani, Su Tianke, and Ling Lanin rushed up and blocked Su-yi. They whispered, "Su-yi, you can't go. If Xianyuan Qian-go is reborn, everyone will die." At this moment, their hearts were in a mess. In the distance, Xianyuan Qian-go and Fei were laughing arrogantly. A heart-wrenching female voice came again. Yunjing's cries and Xianyuan Qian-ji's body pierced into Su-yi's body like an awl. Suddenly, Su-yi thought of Yunjing at the Black Fog auction. At that time, Yunjing was still called Miss Mengyao. Then, Yunjing helped him to massacre the Holy Mountain Academy. When the mysterious ball of light backfired, Yunjing used the power of the wood heaven-suppressing stone in exchange for his life. And now, Yunjing wasn't just Yunjing. She was also great god Yuluo. He owed Yunjing his life in both his previous and current lives. How could he not pay her back? Pushing their hands away, Su-yi walked forward with tears in his eyes. He stared at Xianyuan Qian-go. Xianyuan Qian-ji's face changed into Yunjing's face again. Yunjing's eyes were wet as she looked at Su-yi. She couldn't stop crying. "Don't come over, don't come over." When he got close, Su-yi smiled. His eyes flashed with determination. He whispered, "How can I bear to leave you? What a pair of lovebirds!" Then there was another shrill cry. Yunjing's face changed into Xianyuan Qian-go again. Fei stood guard in front of Su-yi, blocking Handsome Su and Yunchani. The aura of heaven and earth suddenly spun violently. The air surged, and a terrifying ancient aura surged. The terrifying dark purple vortex flashed in front of Su-yi, and the hurricane lifted his robe. Xianyuan Qian-ji's hoarse voice immediately sounded. "That's right, put all of your life force into it. Contribute it to the primordial catastrophe. Let me obtain the power to truly control the primordial catastrophe." "No!" Handsome Su was furious. The fire elemental energy directly broke through the defense. Boom! Fei moved his hand again, and a domineering wall of earth gathered. There were 18 layers in a row, blocking Handsome Su, Yunchani, and the others outside. At this moment, Fei's true power shocked Yunchani. Had Fei been hiding all this time? "Hurry up, I'll only help you for a while," Fei said coldly. On the other side, Su-yi looked at Yunjing's face. He took a deep breath and put his hands into the vortex of the primordial catastrophe. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling from the vortex resounded in the air. The murderous aura became denser, and the entire sky became even more lifeless. Yes, continue. Send them all in. Xianyuan Qian Go greedily watched as her vitality was poured into the vortex. She grinned and her eyes shone. Chapter 25-34. Boom. Boom. At this moment, Su Yi had no other choice. Within the great void divine ocean, it was as if there was a huge water pump draining his meridians. Vast amounts of energy gushed out from his godly mystical spiritual meridians. Dong. Dong. The profound entrances opened one by one, and the meridians in his body were like stars. A huge amount of origin chi flowed through his body, and every profound entrance lit up. If someone could peek into Su Yi's body, they would find that the perfect meridians in his body had turned into a mysterious star map. Boom! Gradually, Su Yi's body became as bright as jade, and the air around Su Yi surged. Immediately, Su Yi's robe was completely ripped open. The Origin Supreme skill roared, and a thick demonic energy flowed into the primordial whirlpool at his fingertip. At the same time, a dimensional bag fell from his robe, but no one noticed. Clang! After receiving the chi, the primordial whirlpool began to expand rapidly. It expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, and everyone was shocked. The cries of the demonic souls that flowed out of the primordial whirlpool filled the air. The shrill cries were like soul-sucking screams, and the world was filled with silence. Ah! Su Yi's body began to twitch in pain. This kind of energy extraction was extremely harmful to his meridians. Su Yi's eyes began to turn white, and his face was unconsciously contorted, making him look like he was in extreme pain. Boss! Don't continue. You'll die. Handsome Su roared. He had seen Su Yi die once, and this time, he would not make the same mistake again. Su Yi! Stop right there. I still want to marry you. Yun Chani wiped her tears, and her eyes were as red as blood. Whoa! Looking at Su Tianke and Ling Lanin, the two of them had already reverted to their original forms. The peacock's body was covered in flames, and although it was slightly smaller than the phoenix, it was still shocking enough. GG. Golden flames flickered in its mouth, and its wings stirred up wind. Immediately, the temperature of the entire space rose, and the blurry space became a sea of fire. In the sea of fire, the civet flapped its wings, and its sharp claws pierced through the air. Its amber eyes were like flowers in the mist, and a strange and majestic soul energy rushed toward Fei. Lord Divine Beasts, I'm here to help you. Feng Quangyijian, who had been shocked by the various miracles in the realm of the gods, finally put away his astonishment and shouted loudly. In an instant, a bright moon appeared in the sky, and a terrifying silver-white sword intent followed the torrential sea of fire and slashed through the sky. Fei! Don't hurt my Lord Su Yi! Standing in the air, Feng Quangyijian and Su Yi Feng. With Su Yi's death, the great edifice would collapse and all life would perish. Today, Xianyuan Qianga used Yunjing as a hostage to command Su Yi. The five of them couldn't let Xianyuan Qianga's plan come true. Suddenly, when the Fei's sword intent slashed, a vast and boundless five-colored demonic aura surged out like a raging sea. Yun Chani also turned into her original form, a colorful giant colorful winged demonic butterfly. She spread her wings and floated in the sky like a saintess. One person and four demonic beasts were fighting Fei. Ha ha ha! In the torn space, demonic aura swept out. If an ordinary Origin Sky Realm cultivator was affected, their bones would have been torn apart. At this moment, Fei put his hands together and murmured. Facing the invincible sword intent and terrifying flames, he simply bent his waist. Boom! The sword wave brushed past his scalp and smashed into a mountain in the distance. The mountain exploded, and the sky and earth roared. Fei quickly got up, and his eyes were incomparably mysterious. He quickly put on his dark yellow armor. Bang! Fei smiled and pointed at the sky. All of a sudden, 6 earth dragons appeared in the huge sky. Their strange howls were so sharp that it made one's soul hurt. This is... The 5 people's eyes flickered at the same time. As soon as the 6 dragons appeared, they blocked the sword intent and the demonic aura. The spatial fluctuations reached a terrifying level. As their expressions changed, the 6 dragons dashed out. Their cold scales shone brightly, and they opened their ferocious mouths and aimed at the 5 people. If you want to fight, I'll play with you. Xianyuan Qiango, consider this a gift from me. Don't forget your promise. Fei sneered. Instantly, he tapped his feet lightly, and the vast land was torn apart as if there was an earthquake. Such strong control of the earth element! Su Xiaoshui exclaimed in a low voice. Primogenitor, let's do it. Su Tianke and Ling Lanin couldn't care less. They spat out flames, and the demonic aura collided with the 6 dragons. Go! Save boss! Su Xiaoshui's eyes were bloodshot. His demonic aura shook and the air condensed. His muscular body leaped out like lightning. He reached out with both hands, and endless flames fell from the sky and bombarded the earth dragon in the center. Bang, bang, bang! After 10,000 years, another earth-shattering battle broke out in the realm of the god. 1 man and 4 demonic beasts fought against 6 dragons. Their figures kept rising, and they distanced themselves from Su Yi and Xianyuan Qiangu. In the shattered space, energy waves swept out, and the surrounding space rippled into nothingness. Demonic aura radiated for 10,000 miles, and the world spun. At this moment, in this chaotic world, the battle had reached its climax. The more they fought, the more shocked they became. Why did Fei have such a profound understanding of the earth element? Not only Su Xiaoshui, but Yun Chani, who thought she was on par with Fei, was also shocked. Fei had been hiding in the 6 Desires Tower all this time. Now, he was finally exposed. He was very strong. Compared to Nanku, Fei was extremely strong. Could it be that he had been waiting for this moment to enter the realm of the gods? Whoosh! We must kill Fei, Yun Chani said loudly, and demonic aura shot out from her hands. At this moment, on the earth dragon, Fei's forehead rippled. His eyes were filled with excitement, and a murderous aura spread out. Die, all of you! Fei shouted, and the 6 earth dragons pounced on them again. They carried boundless earth element energy, and their murderous aura covered the sky. At this moment, on the other side, Su Yi had transferred more than half of his energy into the primordial whirlpool. Xianyuan Qiangu was still in Yunjing's appearance. She formed a mysterious hand seal, and bit by bit, her energy was extracted. She smiled. Ah! Xianyuan Qiangu laughed wildly. Yes, that's it. Continue. Return my energy to me. No. Don't. Yunjing's voice in Xianyuan Qianji's body was weak and sobbing, but she was quickly suppressed by Xianyuan Qiangu. Buzz. At this moment, Su Yi closed his eyes and felt his energy slowly enter the primordial whirlpool. After reaching half-step Origin Sky Stage 4, the 54 entrances had all been activated. Su Yi wanted to search for the truth of the great calamity of the supreme ancient immortal realms. However, all he could see was an endless abyss. This was a kind of chaotic energy. There was no boundary and no vitality. His energy entered along with the power of the stars, but it returned to nothingness. Chapter 25-35. Was this the truth of the great ancient calamity? Su Yi was a little puzzled. Could it be that the great ancient calamity was within this vortex? Back then, did the demon emperor also lose his life to search for this thing? Suddenly, Su Yi's mind became clear. The so-called Great Ancient Calamity was just a natural law of the primal chaos world. The Great Ancient Calamity had its own laws. This vast and boundless energy contained the birth of heaven and earth, the growth of all living things, and even the multitudes of living things. At this moment, Su Yi no longer evaded and allowed the energy in his body to flow into the vortex. At this moment, Su Yi suddenly thought of something. Was his coming from Earth related to the eruption of the Great Ancient Calamity? Then, is this transmigration also a natural law? Su Yi suddenly realized that he was also within the laws of karma. However, he didn't seem to be bound by the laws of karma. Just like how he inexplicably arrived in this strange world, it was a natural law. The Great Ancient Calamity happened once every 10,000 years. It was also a natural law. He wasn't bound by the laws of karma because he was perfectly able to survive under such laws. Was this fate? Su Yi furrowed his brows as he pondered over the connection between all these events. Everything that seemed so messy and disorderly was actually tied together by this mysterious fate. When he was on Earth, people always talked about fate. It seemed like this was fate. Su Yi smiled lightly as he pressed his hands tightly against the vortex. The vortex continued to expand, but Su Yi no longer felt as uncomfortable as before. Everyone wanted to escape the Great Ancient Calamity. They all wanted to control it. Little did they know that they all wanted to control their own fate. At this moment, Su Yi's surroundings were frozen as he entered the dark space. Standing in the desolate starry sky, the power of stars in Su Yi's body spread out from every cell. Ding, ding. The stars returned to their positions, and the sky shone brilliantly. The deep night sky gradually became incomparably resplendent as the Milky Way hung in the sky. Su Yi slowly opened his eyes and was dumbfounded. This is... Su Yi's eyes flickered with surprise. Boom! In the sky, the deep starry sky gradually transmitted back a sentence. Surprised? This is the world you created. Demon Emperor, you're not dead? Su Yi immediately recognized that it was the Demon Emperor's voice. He couldn't help but be astonished. I died 10,000 years ago, but if you can hear my voice, then I'm not dead. The Demon Emperor's voice traveled into the depths of the void. In the vast and gloomy starry sky, countless stars twinkled. In the bright light, everything seemed like a dream. What does that mean? Su Yi couldn't help but wonder. Didn't you comprehend it quite well just now? The Demon Emperor smiled faintly. Su Yi scratched his head and said with a silly smile, I don't understand when I talk to you. Chi La. Just as he finished speaking, starlight flashed in front of Su Yi as the Demon Emperor said in a low voice, Before I left for the Demon God realm, the heavenly star divine palace once gave me a divination and said that I had to go, but I would never return. If you were me then, would you go? After pondering for a while, Su Yi raised his eyebrows and said softly, I would go. Why? The Demon Emperor's voice was faint. For the sake of all living beings, I want to try. But some of them love you, and some of them hate you, envy you, detest you, annoy you, kill you, and harm you. Are you still willing? The Demon Emperor's tone became serious. Taking a deep breath, Su Yi stared at the bright and dreamy stars and said, I'm still willing, because this matter has to be done by me. Then this is your fate, your law. The Demon Emperor said. My law. Su Yi muttered softly as he repeated this sentence over and over again. I will protect all living beings because this is my fate. You came from another world, so this is also your fate. Everyone has their own fate, which makes the dark and boring chaos interesting. The Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Instantly, Su Yi's eyes widened as he stared at the deep space. The Demon Emperor actually knew that he came from Earth? Don't look at me like that. I know that you were never me. I'm just me, and no one can replace me. You're just completing my incomplete path for me. The Demon Emperor said softly. Then, the demon emperor's voice continued to be transmitted. Now that you have the method of control, and you have the body of my celestial demon, this calamity of all living beings, the fate of heaven and earth is already in front of you, and only you can solve it. How do I solve it? Su-yi said faintly. Xianyuan Qianji's so-called control is only a temporary measure. If you want to solve this crisis completely, you have to rely on yourself, the demon emperor said. Then how do I do it? Su-yi still did not understand. Law. All living beings are brilliant and the great Tao is in the heart. Cause and effect circulates, and chaos returns to the origin. As soon as he finished speaking, the stars in the sky disappeared, and the demon emperor's voice also stopped. Recalling the demon emperor's words, Su-yi fell into deep thought. All living beings are brilliant, which meant that everyone had their own fate. The great Tao is in the heart, which meant that when it came to fate, some people would work hard and fight for it, but some people would have evil intentions and destroy their own fate. Cause and effect circulates, and the heavenly Tao is clear. The law of all living beings would have different feedback at every point in time. There was no cause for nothing, and there was no random effect. Take Xianyuan Qiangu for example. Even though she killed the demon emperor and learned how to control the primordial calamity, she still fell into Yu Luo's hands in the end. The Tao of Law was wonderful beyond words. Chaos returns to the origin. Su-yi's brows gradually furrowed. What did this mean? Floating in the vast dark space, Su-yi, who was in the midst of chaos, gradually started to circulate the Origin's supreme technique. 2 rays of light, one black and one white, fused and covered his entire body. Instantly, Su-yi gradually entered a state of enlightenment. What is the law of heaven and earth? Su-yi muttered softly. The celestial demon and celestial demon energies intertwined, and the origin of heaven and earth shone with a terrifying light around his body. Time flowed like sand. In this dark space, Su-yi didn't know how long he had been comprehending for. Thinking about the chaos, living beings, and the relationship between humans, demons, and devils, Su-yi's mind kept recalling his life with the demon emperor. Looking back, it seemed that the more he didn't care, the more he could have it. Following the law, regardless of living beings. From the hierarchy on Earth to the concept of the strong being respected in the other world, this was a kind of excessive demand. Wangchuanda, the Sacred Mountain, Draconis, and Nanku were all like this. The more one wanted to get it, the more one couldn't get it. The more one wanted to control the law, the more one would be devoured by the law. This is the so-called fate, right? Take advantage of the situation, follow your heart, and create a miracle. Instantly, Su-yi opened his eyes. Divine patterns burst out from his body, and rolling flames lingered in the sky. Countless demon souls attacked heaven and earth. Bang, bang, bang. The divine profound spiritual veins were exposed through his skin. Following the Origin's supreme technique circulation, the remaining 54 profound entrances exploded at the same time. The sound of the explosion resounded through the chaos. In the void, the power of the stars once again shone in the sky. Clang! Clang! The Origin ancient bell was rearranged in front of Su-yi. Divine patterns filled the air and shone brightly. A simple and desolate aura merged with the chaos. At this moment, Su-yi had completely cultivated the divine profound spiritual veins. Chapter 2536. Tens of thousands of starlight, the descent of gods and demons. Su-yi, who was in the midst of enlightenment, had a vast and vigorous aura, just like the beginning of heaven and earth. A faint white light flashed between his brows. Ah! With a loud roar from his throat, Su-yi opened his eyes. At this moment, the 12 divine beasts on top of the primordial ancient bell rose into the sky. Awoo! The divine beasts circled the heaven and earth. In the boundless dark space, tens of thousands of divine beasts bowed their heads. Bang bang! A vast and ancient aura circulated. Under the starlight, ancient Sanskrit chants began to be sung. The mysterious chants from the distant sky made the entire heaven and earth seem sacred and lively. Soon after, a black and white light gathered on top of the primordial ancient bell. The ancient bell shone brilliantly, and the vast energy caused it to spin rapidly. In the dark space, the ancient bell set off a storm. The speed became faster and faster, and the chaotic heaven and earth began to shake and tear apart. Bang! The sound of heaven exploded, and the sound of eternity echoed. A terrifying sonic boom rang out around Su Yi's body. The ancient bell cracked, and countless bright ancient fragments adhered to Su Yi's body. They gradually turned into mystical runes hidden under his skin. Amidst the majestic divine might, Su Yi's eyes were still tightly shut. At this moment, Su Yi's skin was completely translucent, and his brows were sharp like swords. Under his handsome appearance, he was transparent and flawless. A vast divine aura circulated around his body, and it was already impossible to distinguish whether he was a demon or a demon. Heaven, earth, and man returned to the same origin. This was the law of ancient times and also Su Yi's fate. Everything has a spirit, so why must I control it? Tao comes from the heart, and everything returns to the origin. In the darkness, waves of energy shook the sky. The violent ancient aura from all directions gradually converged into one. Immediately, the entire sky trembled violently, as if something terrifying had been awakened. It was impossible to describe what was happening. The seventh level of the primordial demon body, I shall name it the Tao of returning to the origin. Su Yi shouted. His domineering voice was like the rebirth of heaven and earth. Mysterious hand seals condensed on his palms. At this moment, the sun, stars, fiend gods, and monsters hovered around Su Yi with solemn expressions on their faces. Terrifying streams of light shot onto Su Yi's body. They were all watching as Su Yi followed the laws of the supreme ancient immortal realms and created a miracle. At this moment, the primal chaos trembled. The boundless primordial vortex had already begun to surge. Stars fell, and rays of light that blotted out the sky enveloped the world. If someone knew about this, they would definitely be shocked. Su Yi had already comprehended a new world and realm. Seeing the equality of all living beings, following the impermanence of the great Tao, bearing the essence of heaven and earth, and establishing the source of eternity. An archaic autarch was being born from the primal chaos. Bang bang! From the ancient source of chaos, countless small dark purple vortexes surged out and surrounded Su Yi. The heavenly might surged inexplicably, and divine thunder resounded throughout the heavens. Within the realm of the gods. Ha 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 ha! Seeing that Su Yi had completely thrown himself into the primordial vortex, Xianyuan Qiangu laughed loudly. At this moment, the primordial vortex's momentum was like a dragon raising its head. The entire sky rippled and collapsed. Countless broken arms and wreckage were sucked into the vortex. Then, all the living beings present were dumbfounded. Boss! Handsome Su shouted loudly, his eyes filled with tears. Su Yi! At this moment, Yun Chani, Su Tianke, and Ling Lanin all revealed grief, anger, and pain as tears streamed down their faces. In the distance, the heavenly might around Xianyuan Qiangu surged. The mysterious runes on her twisted body rippled. It was incomparably terrifying. Boom! Fei's eyes flickered as he quickly returned to Xianyuan Qianji's side. At this moment, Xianyuan Qianji's figure flashed and her face twisted. What happened to you? Fei asked faintly. The corner of Xianyuan Qianji's lips curled up. I've finally been reborn. Ha! I don't think so? Fei's gaze was cold. At this moment, Xianyuan Qianji's face was constantly changing back and forth between Yunjing's original body and Xianyuan Qianji's. As long as you come a little closer, I'll activate the secret technique and I'll succeed. Xianyuan Qiangu said faintly. Suddenly, a light flashed in Fei's eyes. He asked, "Do you still need me?" "Yes, of course. Come quickly." Fei sneered. As soon as he walked closer, Xianyuan Qianji's soul, which had lost its physical body, grabbed at Fei. "Your physical body is not bad. Give it to me. Give it to me." Xianyuan Qiangu shouted. Boom! The powerful light landed on Fei's body. Immediately, Fei and Xianyuan Qiangu began to fight. In the air, Yun Chani, Handsome Su, and the others' eyes flickered. The changes in front of them were extremely shocking. "Why do you have the energy of the heaven-suppressing stone?" In the air, Xianyuan Qianji's huge soul collapsed madly as if she had seen the most terrifying scene. At this moment, Fei was still calm and composed. The surrounding light shot out, and a monstrous murderous aura swept across the sky. Fei put his palms together and said, "I said that you'd keep your promise. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Now I'll take your power." The strong cultivators present could feel an extremely domineering earth elemental essence coming out of Fei's body. Fei's ancient aura suddenly appeared, and his power was impressive. "It's the earth-suppressing heavenly stone. This guy inherited the earth-suppressing heavenly stone. Earth elemental energy is the essence of nature. Among the 5 elements, it's more powerful than the other elements. This is even more troublesome. It's over." Instantly, everyone's eyes were fixed on the sky. Handsome Su made a prompt decision. "We can't stop it anymore. Run." Boom! Divine light spread, and the entire realm of the gods shook violently again. The dimensional bag that Su-Yi had dropped opened at this moment, and an item floated out. Handsome Su and the others were shocked. "The heavenly star cauldron?" Handsome Su roared. It was none other than the heavenly commanding cauldron that had been refined by the heavenly commanding palace. At this moment, the heavenly commanding cauldron carried the unconscious Yun Jing. After circling around the whirlpool, it rushed to Handsome Su's side as if it had received an order. "Is it telling us to leave?" Yun Chani said in a daze. "What are you waiting for?" Handsome Su shouted. Boom! In the distance, Xianyuan Qiangu, who had just taken form, was attacked by the earth-suppressing heavenly stone. Her shrill scream was accompanied by Fei's wild laughter, and the whole world was distorted. Soon, the light around Fei's body began to boil, and his aura continued to rise. The ancient aura was overwhelming. "He's invincible!" Handsome Su exclaimed. Immediately, the others jumped into the heavenly commanding cauldron, and the cauldron flew away from Fei and the primordial whirlpool. Bang bang! Above the whirlpool, cracks appeared. It was as if the sky had exploded, and the turbulence in space bombarded Fei. Primordial catastrophe? Let me take care of you. Fei, who was completely invincible, knew that Handsome Su and the others had left. With Xianyuan Qianji's power and the ability to control it, Fei was confident that they could not escape. Fei's eyes flashed, and a vast light burst out from his body, as if it was about to overturn the entire whirlpool. Chapter 25-37. Boom! Heaven and earth rumbled as if they were about to be destroyed. Su Xiaoshui and the others, who had already left the demonic region on the heavenly star cauldron, were shocked. Is the primordial calamity about to happen? Yun Chani's eyes flashed as she was shocked. Whoosh! Even though they were so far away, Su Xiaoshui and the others could feel an extremely terrifying aura pressing down on them. Between heaven and earth, the vast energy fluctuation intensified again. Endless divine aura accompanied the vortex as it pressed down on the demonic region. Boss! Su Xiaoshui's eyes were bloodshot, and hot tears rolled down his cheeks. It was this terrifying vortex that had swallowed Su-Yi. No. Su-Yi will be fine. Yun Chani pursed her lips, clenched her fists, and knocked on the heavenly star cauldron. Is this heavenly star cauldron Su Yi's last protection for us? Su Tianke sighed. A strange light shot out of the heavenly star cauldron, and divine light spread out. Under the control of the powerful stars, it flew at an extremely fast speed. Walala! Just as everyone was feeling sad, a strange scene appeared in the demonic region under the primordial vortex. In the dark, chaotic darkness, Fei let out an angry roar. His eyes changed drastically, and energy surged out of his body. A violent explosion sounded, and the terrifying energy around Fei quickly fluctuated. Seeing that he couldn't resist the terrifying primordial vortex, the gloomy earth element divine power surged out again. Boom! At the last moment before the primordial vortex descended on the demonic region, a fierce soul pressure surged out, and a long spatial crack appeared. Fei is escaping! Yun Chani shouted. Suddenly, everyone looked at Fei in surprise. Fei, who was covered in yellow light, stared at the primordial vortex in the sky and stomped his feet. Primordial calamity, I will definitely conquer you! Fei's eyes narrowed, and a fierce aura surged out of his body. Without hesitation, he entered the spatial crack. He actually left, Su Xiaoshui said. Didn't he already devour Xianyuan Qianji's energy? Why can't you control the Archean catastrophe? Su Tianke asked in surprise. Suddenly, the whirlpool in the distance continued to rumble. There were stars in the whirlpool. Under the terrifying pressure, Su Xiaoshui and the others turned pale. It was as if they were going to explode. Now that Fayette has escaped, we can't escape. This situation, the great ancient calamity, should be about to erupt. Ling Lanin's moon pupils curled up, her face completely livid. Whoosh! The heavenly star divine cauldron quickly flew through the vast space. Lightning flashed and thunder filled the sky like a comet passing through space. At this moment, the heavenly star cauldron stopped in an area of ruins. Buildings were connected together, ancient temples were continuous, and light flickered. It seemed out of place in this chaotic realm of the god. Heavenly Star Divine Palace. Yun Chani supported Yun Jing as they walked down from the heavenly star cauldron. She surveyed her surroundings, and a dazzling light blossomed. It was vast and majestic, and the millions upon millions of creatures seemed insignificant in comparison. I didn't expect it to bring us here. Little handsome Su sighed as he stared at the sky. The great ancient calamity is about to arrive. To be able to return to the heavenly star divine palace is like a fallen leaf returning to its roots. Feng Kuang sighed. Boom! At this moment, the sky above the demon god realm was completely covered by a large whirlpool. Under the terrifying fluctuations of the aura, divine light flickered. Waves of destructive divine light spread between heaven and earth, directly tearing the sky into pieces. Immediately, little handsome Su Tianke, Ling Lanin, Feng Kuang, and Yun Chani looked at the sky with serious expressions. Forget it. Anyway, we've already experienced it once. This time, we still couldn't save boss. Let's see if we'll have the chance in our next life. Little handsome Su laughed, the corners of his mouth twitching. I can still be together with the reincarnation of great god Yuluo. In my next life, I can also see Sui. It's not a loss. Yun Chani glanced at the unconscious Yun Jing and smiled bitterly. It's coming. Feng Kuang took a deep breath and his eyes flashed. Immediately, the divine light of the vortex filled with unparalleled might once again, and a terrifying aura burst forth with a loud bang. In the blink of an eye, the whirlpool left the demon god realm and came towards them. It's about to end. The realm of the gods will no longer exist. Come. If you want to destroy, then destroy thoroughly. Don't give me hope in our next life. Su-yi, I'm coming for you. Little handsome Su Tianke, and Yun Chani roared. Everyone's aura surged and their gazes wandered. Outside the chaos demon god realm, The Dharma Controller Conference continued as usual. While Nan Ku was still scheming to cooperate with Xianyuan Qianguo, he didn't expect to meet the extremely terrifying Fei. Under everyone's gazes, Fei shot out a ray of light without much fluctuation. He calmly waved his hand and killed Nan Ku on the spot. Tens of thousands of domain masters were shocked, and their eyes trembled. No one thought that Fei would suddenly become so powerful. After coming out of the realm of the gods, Fei seemed to have become a completely different person. None of the domain masters dared to say anything. At this moment, only Wenfei, Wenfu, and Wu Yu were standing on the stage. With Nan Ku's death, the soul seal in Wenfei's mind was naturally lifted. "Fei, how is Sui?" Wenfei asked coldly. Fei immediately stood up and looked at the faintly discernible purple python crack in the sky. He said softly, "He's dead." "What?" A scream came from Wenfu's throat. Her bloodthirsty eyes looked as if she had heard the most terrifying news in the world. The corner of her mouth sank, and a murderous aura surged out. "Say that again. Fei, say it again." Wu Yu was also trembling with anger. His heavily injured body leaned forward, and his murderous aura surged as he glared at Fei. Suddenly, everyone sighed. Fei's cultivation had reached the transformative realm. He was probably at the peak of Origin Sky Stage 9. Their only hope was the young man who entered the Six Desires Pagoda. Now that Sui was dead, all hope was gone. "Venerable Fei, is there anyone else in the realm of the gods?" Someone in the crowd asked. Suddenly, a calm voice came out of Fei's mouth, sounding mechanical and wooden. "Yun Chani is dead. Feng Kuang's sword killed her. Su Yi's followers are also dead." In a split second, most of the cultivators' faces turned ashen. Luo Shuo was even more furious as he shouted, "How did they die? You must give us an explanation today." "How did they die?" Fei laughed. Fei's gaze fell on the ashen-faced Wenfu and Wenfei. "The immemorial great calamity is happening inside." Chapter 25:38. What? Hearing this, everyone broke out in cold sweat. Their eyes were filled with shock. The great calamity of the immemorial era is coming? "Fei, is what you said true?" Wu Yu said coldly. Immediately, the experts present were terrified like a tiger, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Fei looked at Wenfei and Wenfu with his hands behind his back. "Now, I am the only one who knows how to control the great calamity of the immemorial era. If you want to kill me, it's the same as asking everyone to die with you." "You!" Wenfu shouted angrily. Hearing this, the domain lords started to discuss. It was still Luo Shuo who spoke. "Supreme Fei, let's put other things aside for now. Please spare the lives of the people and save us from this calamity." "What did you call me?" Fei raised his eyes and looked at the domain lords coldly. Soon after, someone shouted, "Supreme Fei, please save the common people. Supreme Fei, please help us. We don't want to die." "That's right. Lord Supreme Martial Artist, please save the common people of this world." "Ah." Hearing this, Fei laughed in anger and nodded. "Good. Fei is willing to take on the role of Supreme Lord in the face of this calamity. Please protect me." "This guy." Wenfu trembled. She looked at Wenfei and Wu Yu and said softly, "Sister, what should we do?" He. Wenfei was also in pain, but he still had to comfort his sister. He said, "Looks like the great calamity of the immemorial era is true. Fei won't do anything to us for now. Sister, wait here. I will be back soon." "Where are you going?" Wenfu shouted softly as she saw Wenfei's back. Immediately, the domain lords formed hand seals in front of them. Countless rays of light gathered around Fei. Mysterious runes revolved around him, and the sound of wind and thunder resounded. Fei, who was in the center of the light, had his hands clasped together. He sat down cross-legged and said softly, "Great calamity of the immemorial era. Now that I have energy in my body, as long as I master the art of control, let's see how you can still stir up trouble. Bang! The corners of Faye's mouth curled up, and tens of thousands of bursts of energy gushed out. The tyrannical power pierced through the distorted space, and the entire space became hazy, and the destructive energy became even stronger. Come on! The great primordial tribulation. Once I conquer you, I will be the true supreme of heaven and earth. His greedy and excited eyes shot out. Faye's entire body flickered with brilliant lights. His divine might was awe-inspiring, as if he was an ancient great emperor. Divine light shrouded the Chaos Demon God domain. Millions of beings in the Chaos Demon God domain watched in shock. Everyone knew that as long as Faye could withstand the attack, he would be the only master of heaven and earth, even if he had done something unspeakable. Come on! Everyone looked at the bright light shining in the sky. Immediately, everyone present shouted and poured all of their cultivation into the array created by Faye. The mighty pressure was like a divine light shining, rushing towards the crack. Bang bang! With a loud bang, the crack suddenly exploded like a punctured balloon. Chaotic energy poured out, and the sky was quickly covered by a purple light that blotted out the sun. Halala! All of a sudden, a torrential primordial vortex flooded in. The Chaos Demon Dominion shook for no reason, and heaven and earth trembled. The thick sky was completely covered by the vortex. Everyone's eyes were trembling as they looked at heaven and earth. Was this the great primordial disaster? None of the people present had seen the real great primordial disaster. Now that they saw the primordial vortex that blotted out the sky, their hearts trembled. Let's do it! Everyone shouted. Faye stared at the vortex. Although he felt that something was wrong, he still pushed with both hands. Then, a dazzling light rushed towards the primordial vortex, and a series of beastly roars were heard from the demonic vortex. The ferocious true god Phoenix, the terrifying peacock beast, and the mystical nine-spirit lynx's voices echoed throughout heaven and earth. Bang bang! Within the vortex, a terrifying spiritual pressure fell, and together with the flames, they landed on Faye's body. Oh no, what is this? Faye roared. Suddenly, everyone in the sky looked at the vortex. It was extremely different from the great primordial disaster that they had imagined. Within the vortex, divine light shone brightly, and flames were raging. The figures of monsters gathered like the sun, and it was as if a primordial demon had descended. It did not look like the end of the world. Faye, let me settle the score with you. A faint voice was heard from within the vortex. Immediately, the primordial vortex that filled the sky began to shrink. Thousands of stars gathered into one, and gradually, a figure was formed. The vortex dispersed, and heaven and earth were dazzling. Meanwhile, a green figure stood in the sky. Divine light shone between his eyebrows, and his incomparably terrifying aura was even more shocking. It's Sui. He's not dead. Luo Shuo was the first to recognize him. The light in his hands dimmed, and he stopped pouring it in. In the sky, all the domain lords withdrew their energy and looked at Sui. At this moment, Suyi's aura was mysterious and indescribably ferocious. Compared to Faye's extremely high cultivation, no one could tell how high Suyi's cultivation was. Surrounded by golden flames, Sui raised his head and looked at Faye in a low voice. When Fu covered her mouth and exclaimed in surprise. She looked at the green-robed figure in the divine light. He was so graceful and outstanding. Her tears immediately flowed. Wu Yu nodded and pulled Wen Fu aside. Don't go over there for now. However, Wu Yu still couldn't hide the joy in his heart. Faye, you're really fast. Standing behind Sui, Su Xiaoshui raised his chin and shouted at Faye angrily. Faye, you colluded with Xianyuan Qiangu and almost caused her to revive. Now you're pretending to be a good person. I'll definitely kill you today. Yun Chani shouted. Everyone was in an uproar. Countless gazes landed on Fei. Fei sneered and looked at Sui. "Why aren't you dead?" Fei asked coldly. Suyi's lips curled up. "If I'm going to die, how can I come to you for revenge?" Sui looked around and said seriously, "It seems like you've killed Nanku. What do you want?" Fei asked. Suyi's robes fluttered. He glanced behind him and said, "The immemorial calamity is under my control, and the earth-suppressing heavenstone is mine. Give it back and I'll let you live." "Fei, my boss is the reincarnation of the Chaos Demonic Emperor. The earth-suppressing heavenstone belongs to him. Give it back." "So Sui is the reincarnation of the Chaos Demonic Emperor. Did you hear that? The immemorial calamity is under Suyi's control. The heavens are really protecting our starfield. Lord Sui is invincible." Countless domain lords cried and shouted excitedly when they saw the crack in the sky disappear. Chapter 2539. That was because he was a god. Sui, I've been working on this plan for decades. Now you've ruined it. Fei glared at Sui and shouted angrily, "And this earth-suppressing heavenly stone is something I've worked so hard to find. Why did you take it away from me?" Fei's face turned ferocious. Earthy yellow energy surged into the sky, and endless sonic booms resounded in the air. "Everything has its own destiny. You'll only make a mistake if you try too hard to get what's not yours," Sui said coldly. His expression was calm, and no one could tell whether he was sad, happy, or angry. "Bullshit!" Fei shouted. He took a step forward, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. "What do you know? Of course you can. It's easy for you, but I've been working on it for years." Bang! Behind him, everyone's eyes froze. Anger, disappointment, and disdain were everywhere. "I said Fei would do anything to achieve his goals. Now that he's been exposed, how can he still fight here?" "That's right. Fei, surrender now." "Fei, don't anger Supreme Sui. You've been enforcing the law impartially for all beings Starfield for so many years. Don't lose your reputation." The crowd was furious, and almost all the territorial rulers began to curse at Fei. They wouldn't have submitted to Fei if they weren't under pressure. The two-faced Fei, who had been enforcing the law impartially, had completely lost the support of the people after Sui came out. "Ah!" Fei turned around and his face gradually darkened. The corners of his mouth curled up, and a trace of blood flowed out from between his snow-white teeth. "Ordinary people, you're a bunch of pests." He really knew how to echo the crowd and go with the flow. These inferior beings should have been killed by the primordial calamity. "Ha ha ha!" Fei threw his head back and laughed maniacally. His hands began to form mysterious seals, and suddenly, black lines appeared in front of the territorial rulers. Fei controlled the tens of thousands of black lines. Fei's pupils contracted, and a thunderous voice resounded around him. Then, black light and earthy yellow light surged around Fei's body. "Sui, what can you do to me with Xianyuan Qian's power, demon-attracting secret technique, and the energy of tens of thousands of ants?" As Fei's domineering voice, terrifying dark energy began to circulate rapidly. In just a short period of time, a huge devouring force spread out in all directions. Countless area masters immediately cried out in agony. The black smoke seemed to grow on their bodies, and visible light emanated from the black smoke in front of them. Like a vortex, everyone's energy began to converge on Fei's body. "Fei! He's accumulating everyone's power." Suddenly, Su Xiaoshui roared. His voice shook the heavens, and the terrifying sound waves accompanied by endless flames rushed out to intercept Fei. Behind him, Yun Chani, Su Tianke, and Ling Lanin all looked at Sui. Sui raised his eyebrows and stared coldly at Fei, who was still laughing wildly. His eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. Fei is going against the will of the heavens. Today I must kill him. Suddenly, Sui looked at Fei, only to hear a cold female voice from afar. Sui and Fei both turned to look at the source of the voice. Fei, you've done all kinds of evil. Today, I'll destroy the threads of 7 emotions and 6 desires. No. Fei roared furiously and his eyes shrunk. He made a strange hand seal in the air, and when Fei had already destroyed the 7 soul strands in his hand with great pressure, Pucci, with the threads of 7 emotions and 6 desires destroyed, Fei's killing intent dissipated, and he spat out a large cloud of blood. At the same time, the Yuan Qi radiance that was connected by the surging black threads retreated. A large number of domain lords were pale and haggard. I'm going to kill all of you! Fei roared. Fei, who had taken most of the territorial ruler's energy, stood up and looked around with a fierce gaze. Fei screamed and looked at Wen Fu, who was beside Wu Yu, and flashed across the sky like a ghost. Sister! When Fei screamed. Fei's speed was unimaginably fast. Hearing Wen Fei's words, Su Yi's eyes moved, and he noticed the figure beside Wu Yu that he had been thinking about day and night. Mother! Su Yi's lips moved slightly. Qi La! Kill! Su Yi raised his eyes, and the 7th level of the Origin Supreme technique was fully activated. The killing intent in his eyes increased, and he stepped into the air, pouncing towards Fei. In an instant, holy light flashed, and a terrifying radiance like the sun appeared in front of Su Yi. In the blink of an eye, Su Yi had already arrived beside Wen Fu. Wen Fu's eyes were wet as she watched her son protect her. Bang! Su Yi pushed his hands forward, and his palms collided with Fei's. With Su Yi as the center, the terrifying wave of light instantly blasted away all the domain lords present. Touch my mother, I'll kill you! Su Yi's holy light flickered, and a powerful energy rushed out, clashing with Fei in the air again. His figure changed like a ghost, and it was impossible to predict his movements. In the vast light, the others had already gathered together. When Fei supported Wen Fu, and when Fei had already retracted his threads of 7 emotions and 6 desires. In the air, Su Yi had completely mastered the Origin Supreme technique, and the starlight around his body surged. His hand seals kept flying, and the space continued to explode and crumble inch by inch. An extremely terrifying and domineering aura trembled, and soon after, the heavenly might rolled, and the void shook. Boom! Fei, who was sent flying, was struck into several soul clones, and they stood up at the same time, looking at Su Yi with flickering eyes. Why is he so strong? Su Yi's eyes were gloomy, and his domineering aura surged as he looked at Fei coldly, as if he could control everything in the world. You can't force it, Su Yi said lightly. Then, a holy light rushed out from Su Yi's body again. At this moment, Su Yi was stepping on thousands of stars, and the light around him stretched across heaven and earth, as if a god had descended, and was extremely domineering. Tao of Origin, die! As soon as his voice fell, he aimed at Su Yi's body. An incomparably huge starlight vortex surged out, and the surrounding heaven and earth almost collapsed. Is this the immemorial Great Tribulation? Su Yi roared. The numerous region lords and experts in the sky all raised their heads to look up at the terrifying strength that Su Yi had erupted with, and all of them exclaimed endlessly with solemn gazes. Everyone knew that Fei's momentum was gone. This battle between the Supremes would end with Su Yi's victory. Su Yi was stepping on the stars, and the light of the demonic beasts behind him was everywhere in the vortex. Countless terrifying winds made Su Yi feel as if he was bathing in the holy light. Bang! A low explosion sounded. Su Yi raised his eyebrows, and with a tap of his foot, a long and bright line of starlight appeared in the void. It's not that easy to kill me, Fei shouted. Chapter 2540. Facing the overwhelming energy, the space around Faye trembled violently. Suddenly, Faye spat out a mouthful of blood, and the earth-heaven suppressing stone rushed out from his chest. Chi-la! The earth-heaven suppressing stone grew with the wind, and the divine light spread out and swept out. Bang! The destructive energy emerged in the sky, and the earth-heaven suppressing stone was shattered by Faye's energy. The monstrous energy formed an arc of light and poured down in front of Su-yi. Since the earth-heaven suppressing stone is yours, you can watch me destroy it with your own eyes. Ah! Not good. The experts present were shocked. At this time, Su-yi had already rushed out for thousands of miles, and the long line of stars did not stop at all, and directly pierced into Faye's heart. Rumble! In an instant, Faye died along with the earth-heaven suppressing stone. The sky was filled with blood mist, and the light of the earth-heaven suppressing stone also floated in the sky. In the sky, a monstrous force swept out, spreading out into circles of dark ripples, and instantly, the line of stars stopped. Standing in the middle of the light, Su-yi was bathed in the light of the earth-heaven suppressing stone. These light fragments found their master and crazily attached themselves to him. Rumble! At this moment, Su-yi's body began to expand again, and his figure was like a god shining in the sky. Boss! Su-yi! At this moment, Su-yi did not hear the three calls, and Su-yi could only feel that his aura was rising crazily. Su-yi's eyes flickered, and in the midst of the starlight, he raised his head and saw an incomparably thick ninth heaven Xian thunder falling from the dark space crack. The Xian thunder broke through the sky, and all life was extinguished. At this moment, Su-yi could no longer move. Looking at the Xian thunder that appeared in the space-time crack, Su-yi suddenly felt a kind of stillness of life. This feeling was strange and mysterious, and Su-yi had experienced it when he crossed over from Earth. Back then, it was this light that had flashed by. With the protection of the mysterious space, Su-yi had arrived at this strange land. Is this my destiny? Su-yi took a deep breath and immediately understood what had happened. Su-yi was clear that he didn't belong here, but everything happened too quickly. Visible to the naked eye, the primordial ancient bell that had fused into one once again appeared around Su-yi. The four heaven-suppressing stones of earth, water, wind, and fire revolved rapidly in front of Su-yi. But I don't want to leave yet. Su-yi sighed softly as he looked at his mother, little auntie, Yun-jing, Yun-chani, little handsome Su, and the others in the distance. The energy in the air had already reached its peak. Suddenly, Su-yi's eyes turned red. He raised his hand, but in the end, he was powerless to put it down. Su-yi knew that this was a sign of wanting to go back. In the blink of an eye, he had been on this land for more than 20 years. He had made a name for himself here, got married, and had children. He had fulfilled his lifelong dream. Now, he had finally made a great achievement. He had stopped the immemorial great calamity, killed Faye, and become the immortal supreme of the immemorial era. But everything was coming to an end so quickly. Fate was really interesting. Su-yi's eyes turned red as he stared at the sky and the earth. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. After Faye's death, the energy of heaven and earth rose instead of falling. Black lightning flashed and rumbled around Su-yi. The dark space in the terrifying sky exploded with muffled sounds, as if an ancient beast had awakened. At this moment, everyone in the distance realized that something was wrong. It's your mother. Come back quickly. When Fu's legs trembled as she ran to Su-yi. Su-yi, come back quickly. Yun-jing also woke up at this moment and cried loudly. Seeing that the nine heavens' black lightning was about to strike, endless destructive energy seeped out from the void as if it was going to destroy the world. Everyone instantly cried. Demons have their own destinies, so do humans. Su-yi has broken through to the peak of origin sky state. This is a test from the heavens. Wu Yu's eyes trembled. There had long been a legend in the star fields that humans would face their own destinies when they reached the peak of Origin Sky State. What the F***ck are you talking about? My boss is his own destiny. What destinies does he need? Hearing this, Su Xiaoshuai's eyes trembled as he stepped forward. Immediately, Su Tianke, Ling Lanin, Yun Chani, and the others stepped forward with serious expressions and followed closely behind. At this moment, the energy of the space was extremely destructive. The black lightning's radiance was like a radiance that made people's hearts palpitate. It was impossible to resist. With a light toss, it heavily injured Su Xiaoshuai and the others. Su-yi! Come back. Mother hasn't hugged you yet. Seeing that there was no way out, everyone exclaimed. Wen Fai, and the others cried until they broke down. Whoosh! Whoosh! The black lightning finally fell from the sky. In this bright radiance, all of Su-yi's memories on this continent came flooding back. Everything was white and the space was instantly shattered. Violent tears shrouded Su-yi. Su-yi only left one sentence. I really want to go back to the heavenly barbarians. Only this sentence was left in the sky. Then, a dazzling radiance fell from the sky. The black lightning was unparalleled. The energy of the heavenly cycle spread wildly, causing everyone's souls to tremble. Rumble! The surrounding space was instantly distorted and shattered under the impact of this terrifying energy. Boom! The thunderous sound of the energy explosion reverberated through the sky. It was as if thunder had destroyed the world, turning everything into nothingness. The moment the black lightning disappeared, Su-yi disappeared. Immediately, everyone rushed forward crazily without caring about anything else. Cries rang out from the heavens, the earth, and the earth. Then, Su-yi's last sentence, I really want to go back to the heavenly barbarians, became everyone's dream. 3 days after Su-yi disappeared, everyone returned to the heavenly barbarians with Su-yi's will. The heavenly drive river was still as beautiful as before. 2 young girls were sitting in front of the peak in front of the earthquake, laughing and playing. Both of them were about 7 or 8 years old. They were beautiful like bright pearls. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the distant sky, a white fog slowly fell. Divine light suddenly descended, causing the entire heavenly drive river to shine brightly. Sister, look! What is that? The little girl said in panic. At this moment, a figure in a white robe slowly walked out from the back of the mountain. It was Duanmu Xiaoman. Auntie! Mother! The girls exclaimed and hid behind Duanmu Xiaoman. They looked through the gap and panicked. At this moment, Duanmu Xiaoman, who had heard the news, quickly gathered many powerful people behind her. There were little handsome Su Tianke, Ling Lanin, Ling Qianxue, Lu Ruoxi, the Su family, the Lu family, and of course Yun Chani. Looking into the distance, Duanmu Xiaoman's face trembled. Her eyes were clear and rippling. She stroked the heads of the 2 girls. Shiro Manqing, that is your father. After saying this, Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes became misty. Uncontrollable tears flowed down her usually calm face. End. Chapter 2541. 6 years ago, Chen Kuang's elixir was taken away by his fiancée and thrown into a bottomless abyss. However, he had a fortuitous encounter and started a new life. Once, there were great sects and sacred grounds that joined forces and besieged the city. Once, there were aristocratic families that formed an alliance and sent millions of soldiers to cover the sky. Once, there were demons that set up an ancient killing array. Once, there were ancient aristocratic families that declared that they would kill them at all costs. Chen Kuang stood with his head held high. Which great sect dares to block my path? I'll just destroy them. Which aristocratic family dares to block my path? I'll just flatten them. How many ancient aristocratic families that had dominated the world had been flattened by Chen Kuang's enemies? How many great aristocratic families that had stood tall for generations had dared to invade them? They had to be massacred. Now Chen Kuang had returned. The humiliation that he had suffered in the past had to be washed away with fresh blood. Only then would he live up to the name of the killing god. The new book, Invincible War God, 9 Heavens, has been released. After half a year of polishing, it has returned to the cool craftsman, the hot-blooded fantasy novel. Please recommend it. Thank you to all the readers. God's announcement. The new book, Invincible War God, 9 Heavens, has been released. After half a year of polishing, it has returned to the cool craftsman. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.